This time, your gay guide is taking you to São Paulo Pride, the biggest pride celebration in the world. This year, millions of people filled the streets of São Paulo to celebrate the 30th anniversary of an event that has become a symbol of LGBTQ+ visibility around the globe. But behind the music, the parties and the celebration, there is a story that many people don't know. Because while São Paulo Pride continues to attract millions of people every year, reports show that corporate sponsorship dropped by around 60% compared to the previous year. A reminder that even after 30 years, visibility should never be taken for granted. So in this video, we are not only going to experience São Paulo Pride together, we are going to discover how a small gathering of just 2,000 people became the largest Pride celebration on Earth. We will explore the history, the people who made it possible, the challenges that they faced, and why 30 years later the fight for visibility is still as important as ever. So come with me and let's explore São Paulo Pride together. Before we continue our journey to São Paulo Pride, I want to share something a little more personal. A few years ago, I decided to invest in myself and underwent liposuction in Brazil. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made, not because it changed who I am, but because it helped me feel more confident in my own skin. That experience also gave me a deeper appreciation for the quality of aesthetic care available in Brazil. While the country is famous for plastic surgery, it's also home to outstanding professionals who focus on skin health, facial rejuvenation, and long-term aging management. One of the professionals I've come to know and trust is Dr. Agnaldo and his team. What I appreciate most about their approach is that they focus on natural-looking results and personalized care. Rather than chasing dramatic transformations, their goal is to help patients look refreshed, confident, and like the best version of themselves. Whether it's advanced skin treatments, facial rejuvenation, minimally invasive procedures, or surgical options when appropriate, their recommendations are always tailored to each individual patient's needs and goals. For many international visitors, this approach can be especially appealing. A lot of treatments can be performed during a short visit to Brazil, often with little or no downtime, making them easier to fit into a busy lifestyle or travel schedule. In fact, later this year, I will return to Brazil and I will be visiting the clinic for a personalized facial aesthetic treatment, and I will be sharing part of that experience with you. So, if you've been thinking about improving your skin, exploring facial rejuvenation options, or simply learning more about aesthetic treatments available in Brazil, I included a special link below this video where you can learn more and get in touch with the clinic directly. Now, let's get back to São Paulo Pride and continue exploring one of the most important LGBTQ+ celebrations in the world. Before we talk about São Paulo Pride, we need to understand the world that existed before it.
Plague! We are in the middle of a plague! 40 million infected people is a plague!
During the 1980s, AIDS spread across the globe, devastating communities everywhere. At a time when there was no effective treatment, an HIV diagnosis was often considered a death sentence. Families lost loved ones, communities lost leaders, and the world lost artists, musicians, activists, and friends whose lives were cut short by the epidemic. For LGBTQ+ people, the crisis was impossible to ignore. Many lived in fear. Many watched entire groups of friends disappear within a few years, and Brazil was no exception.
O Brasil perde dos maiores talentos da nova geração da música brasileira. O cantor e compositor Cazuza morreu hoje cedo no Rio, depois de 5 anos de luta contra a AIDS.
One of them was Cazuza, a poet, singer, and cultural icon whose music defined the generation. When he publicly revealed his battle with AIDS, Brazil watched one of its biggest stars slowly fade away. His death in 1990 shocked the nation and put a face on an epidemic many still didn't fully understand. Then became Renato Russo, the voice behind one of Brazil's most influential rock bands. His death in 1996 reinforced a painful reality. AIDS was affecting every corner of Brazilian society. Another powerful voice was Leo Nilsson, a visual artist whose work documented his experience living with HIV. Today, his art stands as a testimony to one of the darkest chapters of the epidemic. As more public figures died, the crisis became impossible to ignore. The question was no longer whether Brazil should act. The question was how, and then Brazil chose a different path. In 1996, the country became one of the first nations in the world to guarantee universal and free access to HIV treatment through its public healthcare system. Known as SUS, Brazil's public health system would become one of the country's greatest tools in the fight against AIDS. Regardless of income, patients could access life-saving medication. At a time when treatment remained inaccessible to millions around the world, Brazil was becoming an international reference in HIV care. The same country that was losing artists, musicians, and activists to AIDS was now helping save lives. But the fight against AIDS did more than transform public health. It transformed a community. It showed LGBTQ+ Brazilians that collective action could create real change, that rights could be demanded, that lives could be protected, and that visibility mattered. Just 1 year later, that same spirit would help launch something that no one could have imagined at the time. A small gathering on Avenida Paulista, the first São Paulo Pride parade, an event that would eventually become the largest Pride celebration in the world. Today, it's difficult to imagine Avenida Paulista without Pride. Every year, millions of people gather here to celebrate diversity, visibility, and freedom. But 30 years ago, none of that was guaranteed. In 1997, São Paulo was preparing for something it had never seen before, the city's first Pride Parade. At the time, Brazil was already known as one of the most dangerous countries for LGBTQ+ people. For many, simply attending a Pride march required courage, and yet, despite the risks, people showed up. Around 2,000 participants gathered on Avenida Paulista. Compared to today's crowds, it was a tiny event, but what it lacked in numbers, it made up for in bravery. No one knew what the future would look like. No one knew whether Pride would ever happen again. What they did know was that they wanted to be seen. They wanted visibility, they wanted respect, and they wanted a place in Brazilian society. But even occupying Avenida Paulista would prove to be a challenge. According to stories from organizers and participants, there was uncertainty about whether traffic would be properly stopped for the march. Then came one of the most symbolic moments in São Paulo Pride history. Activists and drag queens stepped onto the avenue and physically occupied the streets. Some reportedly lie down on the asphalt itself. Cars stopped, traffic stopped. And for the first time, Avenida Paulista belonged to them. It was more than a protest, it was a statement. A declaration that LGBTQ plus Brazilians had the right to exist openly and visibly. Looking back today, it's easy to focus on the millions who attend Pride, but every movement starts somewhere, and in São Paulo, it started with few thousand people willing to take a risk. They could not have known it then, but they were laying the foundation for what would become the largest Pride celebration in the entire world. We are going to Drag Brazil. I was invited by Coco Montreal, so Coco, thank you so much for your invitation. And can you believe that Coco Montreal is literally inviting me to come to this? Few minutes I'm going to have a very good hug. Tá, eu vou pegar aqui. Só tem esse agora. É muito pouco. Thank you so much, also. I'm going to text you for the bus if I get. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. As the years passed, São Paulo Pride continued to grow at an extraordinary pace. What began as a demonstration in 1997 quickly became one of the largest annual gatherings in Brazil. By the early 2000s, attendance had already reached hundreds of thousands of people. The event was no longer attracting only local residents. People were traveling from across Brazil to take part in the celebrations. This rapid growth began to change how the parade was viewed by city officials and businesses. What had started as a political demonstration was now generating a significant economic impact. The city began investing more resources into infrastructure, logistics, and public services to accommodate the increasing crowds. The transformation was remarkable. In less than a decade, São Paulo Pride had evolved from a grassroots demonstration into one of the largest public events in the country. Then came the milestone that would cement its place in history. In 2006, São Paulo Pride was officially recognized by Guinness World Records as the largest pride parade in the world. The recognition brought international attention. Media outlets from around the globe began covering the event. Visitors from other countries started adding São Paulo Pride to their travel plans. For the first time, the world's largest pride parade was no longer in North America or Europe, it was in Brazil. And São Paulo had become the global capital of Pride. 3 decades after its first edition, São Paulo Pride has become one of the most recognizable LGBTQ+ events in the world. Every year, millions of people gather along Avenida Paulista and the surrounding streets for a celebration that combines activism, culture, entertainment, and political visibility. What was once a local demonstration has evolved into a global event. Visitors travel from across Latin America, North America, Europe, and beyond to experience São Paulo Pride firsthand. For many international travelers, the event has become one of the main reasons to visit Brazil. The celebration has become one of São Paulo's most important tourism events and a major part of the city's annual calendar. But despite its size, Pride has never completely abandoned its political roots. Every year, recognizers select a theme highlighting issues affecting Brazil's LGBTQ+ community. Topics such as equality, healthcare, discrimination, and political representation remain central to the event's message. This balance between celebration and activism is one of the reasons São Paulo Pride stands apart from many other Pride events around the world. Today, São Paulo Pride is more than the largest Pride parade in the world. It's one of the most visible symbols of LGBTQ+ culture in Brazil. And every year, millions of people gather on those streets to become part of its history.
Nós estaremos em todos os lugares, na política, na academia, na rua, na universidade, na televisão, em qualquer lugar, porque LGBT é capaz de fazer qualquer coisa. Não foi nenhum macho branco cis e hétero. Somos nós. Foi essa comunidade pelas mãos de uma travesti preta, de uma bicha negra, que foram lá.
For many people outside Brazil, the country is often seen as a symbol of diversity and freedom. Images of Carnival, world-famous beaches, and the largest Pride parade on Earth have helped create the perception of a country that's exceptionally welcoming to LGBTQ+ people. But the reality is more complex. Despite its vibrant LGBTQ+ culture, Brazil has also faced serious challenges when it comes to violence and discrimination. For years, human rights organizations have documented high levels of violence against LGBTQ+ individuals, particularly transgender people. This contradiction has shaped much of Brazil's modern LGBTQ+ movement. The country that hosts the world's largest Pride parade is also a country where activists continue fighting for safety, representation, and equal rights. Over the years, the fight has increasingly moved beyond the streets and into politics. One of the most influential figures in that transition was Jean Willis, a journalist, professor, and former congressman who became one of Brazil's most visible advocates for LGBTQ+ rights. His election represented a historic milestone for LGBTQ+ political representation in Brazil, but his story also highlights the challenges that remain. After years of receiving threats because of his political positions and advocacy work, Jean Willis left Brazil in 2019, citing concerns for his safety. His departure became an international symbol of the tensions that continued to surround LGBTQ+ rights in the country. It was a reminder that progress is not always linear, and that visibility can sometimes come with a personal cost. A new generation would later take that visibility even further, and among them comes Erica Hilton, a black transgender woman who became one of the most prominent voices in Brazil's National Congress. Her election reflected a transformation that would have been difficult to imagine when São Paulo Pride first began in 1997. The presence of openly LGBTQ+ politicians in positions of national leadership demonstrates how much Brazil has changed over the past 3 decades. But their work also serves as a reminder that visibility alone does not guarantee equality. The story of LGBTQ+ rights in Brazil is not only a story of progress, it's also a story of ongoing struggles. And perhaps that's why São Paulo Pride continues to attract millions of people every year. Because for many, Pride is not only a celebration of how far the community has come, it's also a reminder of how far there is still to go.
Se não arrancarem os nossos empregos, se não roubarem a nossa dignidade, a gente vai muito longe. A única coisa que empata o nosso caminho é o ódio, a desigualdade, o preconceito e a intolerância. E nessa data celebrativa de 30 anos de parada, nós temos um compromisso sociedade horrorosa e cafona e dizer nada nem ninguém para a comunidade LGBTQIA+.
To all those who fought and to all those who continue to fight, thank you. I would not be standing here today. I would not be making this video. And millions of people would not be gathering on these streets every year. Not without your courage, not without your sacrifice, and not without your perseverance. From the activists who demanded treatment during the AIDS crisis, to those who marched in the first Pride Parade in 1997, to those who continue fighting for equality today. This celebration exists because of you. Your voices changed history, and may they never stop being heard. Your Gay Guide.